Hey, comic book fans, Pete here with my good friend Brian, and it is about 103 degrees in Texas right now. Yes. What's the temperature in Jersey?
It's low 90s. It was before. I don't know what it is exactly right now, but
Yes. But we are definitely going to keep it hot here, us middle-aged white dudes with our comic book theories. We are going to embiggen your continuity boners tonight. And this is our 100th podcast episode, by the way.
woo!
Yeah, man. Brian, I as a surprise and a treat for you for doing 100 episodes with me, I actually pre-ordered that 4 foot tall fucking Metroplex for you.
What?
Yes, yes.
I wish I
just
could believe it, but it's not
over
even
there.
available to pre-order yet. So,
Oh, okay, yes. It would probably cost about $1,000, and I'm gonna do that thing where Hasbro is gonna actually mold your face onto it too.
yes,
Yes, they're
Do
gonna
it.
3D print your face on Metroplex.
It's like a little mini me.
Yes. I want to make sure, because I'm following the YouTube rules of etiquette, we're going to basically tell you what we're going to do right now. We're going to cover Ms. Marvel episode 6, because we always do our Disney Plus shows first, and then we are going to discuss Thor, Love, and Thunder. We are also going to rank Ms. Marvel, the show, among the MCU shows, and we're going to rank Thor among the MCU movies. Brian, I want to ask you a quick question, though, because you're my friend. If you could have your face molded onto a Transformer, though, 3D printed, which one would it be?
I have no idea. I should have thought of this. I mean, the obvious answer is Optimus Prime, but I'm gonna go real specific here with the Transformers Thrilling 30 Last Stand of the Wreckers inspired Springer.
Nice. That would be good. You'd look good on that, man.
Yeah.
You'd look good on that.
I think I would.
Yeah. Starscream is my favorite. I know it's kind of cliche to say, but I don't think I would look good on. I'm
I
thinking
put my head
like,
on this guy.
oh my god, look at that fucking thing, Jesus!
Oh,
You gotta get a TikTok channel, man, going where you just show your collections. That's
I
so
just
many of
started
the channels.
following some guy that did that, but I mean, he's got all these like crazy masterpieces things, and I don't have that many. So
yeah, like half of my TikTok videos that I look at are just people's shelves of toys.
So for me right now, it would be like, oh, here's my cool Transformer thing, and here's a spider web.
Oh man, did that big fucking spider leave your
So
office
it's a
there?
spider cricket. So
okay.
yeah, I have to tell the funny story because it's been haunting me. So I work in my office in the basement. I dropped my son off at summer camp. I had a meeting at 9:15 in the morning. I came down to my office. I got in at 9:14 because drop off's at 9. I walk in and there's a giant spider cricket, like this big, I'd say. This big, like at least like 2.5, 3 inches long.
Oh my
Just
god!
middle of my floor, like right there.
Oh.
There it is. No. And I legitimately screamed and I ran. I ran upstairs. I thankfully have a laptop and I have another computer set up upstairs. My wife normally uses, and I've been using that the last 2 days. This is actually the first time I'm sitting down here since I saw it.
Oh my god!
I came down here with George R. R. Martin's Dance with Dragons wrapped in a bag, so I don't destroy the book, but it's nice and heavy, so I can throw it if I needed to. And I have this really, really industrial strength flashlight to help me look at all the little corners, nooks, and crannies. And that's why if I seem less prepared today is because I spent about half an hour scouring the office checking for things.
Oh my god, dude, you're bringing the comedy tonight, man. I think you've landed a couple more laughs than the Thor movie did in the theater. Take that, Taika Waititi.
Oh.
No, it's funny. Like, one of the things I think that we talk about so much on this channel is like the internet response to these things, right? And both things we're going to talk about tonight, I know there's a lot of hate for both of them just because people can't take anything that's not, typical alpha male, superhero stuff, right? And here's the thing: I'm going to be critical of both of this show and this movie today, but I did appreciate things in both, and so I think we should dive right into Ms. Marvel so we can kind of get that out of the way because I'm very, very curious to hear about your Thor thoughts.
Sure.
So, Ms. Marvel, episode 6, entitled "No Normal." Did you notice that it was similar to the first episode in terms of like style and the way it was filmed.
Yes, I think so. I think I did notice it. And I think also what helped is that we're back just in Jersey City here. We're not globetrotting anymore. It's less mythology here and more street level, which is what I expected of this show in the first place.
Yeah. And yeah, they're back in Jersey City. It makes a big difference. It's also directed by Adil and Bilal, the two directors that directed the first episode too. So it's that little bookend effect right there. I was happy for them to be back behind the camera and also just to be back in Jersey City. This episode felt the most like a Ms. Marvel comic, like an issue of Ms. Marvel.
I agree.
When she busts out the costume, or should I say her mom gave her the costume, did you like the fact that that's how she got her costume?
Well, I kind of felt like the whole show they were kind of slowly piecing together the costume. It seemed a little rushed that she just somehow got it from the time that little incident happened in Karachi to when they got home.
Right.
A little rushed there, but I really like the costume a lot. I think the costume is fantastic.
Yes.
But it's I don't mind that her mom gave it to her because I think what this show is about is family and community. And I think all that coming together, although it kind of feels rushed in this last episode, I did like it.
Okay. Yeah, I did feel like it was rushed too because they make it seem like they just got back from Karachi.
I mean, she says it. She said, I just got off the plane. I mean,
yeah. And so here's this pre-made costume. You know, like maybe they were working on it or it was made there, and then she brought it with her on the plane. But I was wondering if you thought, do you think it was kind of hypocritical or like kind of contradictory that the mom who wouldn't let Kamala go to Avenger Con is now essentially giving her a costume to go be a superhero?
No, because I just think it's rushed. I think it should have been a little slower. I think, although the catalyst was them going to Karachi and all these things happening, I think I would have preferred this show had they not went globetrotting.
Yeah.
And I think this show didn't exactly know how it wanted to, what route they wanted to go with the origin of her powers, because it's going in like 3 different directions and it's just confusing.
Yes.
I wish they would have picked something and stuck with it.
Yes.
Rather than mix all these things together and just confuse people.
Oh my God. It is like, like if you go to the food court, you just get like a side from one place, a side from another place, you put it all together. Yeah, it is a crazy little stew they're making here.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the end because that's the most topical thing to talk about there.
Yeah.
But then for me, I just felt like, it's kind of contradictory because, the parents like, you can't go to this Avenger convention because it's dangerous. Now here's this costume and you're going to go be a superhero and, potentially get shot at and stuff. I just felt like it was, it didn't add up, but I get that there's only a certain amount of episodes and they have to get to the point. Right. So what I thought was maybe the best part of the whole show, like all 6 episodes, was when she finally had the costume on and then she was like making the little steps of light and just going across Jersey City and they had the music going. I thought that was great.
Yeah, that was great. Yes, that was really cool. It looked good. It's a little impractical, I think, because you got to get real tired doing that, but it does look cool. It's showing her patrolling and being out in public and just being Miss Marvel. So it was a cool scene there. I did like the I don't want to call it. I guess they're fight scenes, with just her saving people because that's what she does. Like and you don't actually even really see heroes do that all that often anymore. They're usually fighting somebody, but like she was actually concerned about like the collateral damage here. And like I said before, I think that the strength of this show is, and this character is family and community. And I think that this episode kind of demonstrated that well.
Yeah, I think I probably would appreciate a lot better if it wasn't like this pre-existing Marvel character that has all these connections to different parts of the continuity, right? She's connected to the Inhumans and she's been an Avenger and she's teamed up with a whole bunch of different people. I think that if it was just this new show, right? Like, and they were just creating this new character, I think I would appreciate it more. I do like the community stuff, and I mean, obviously that's a big part of it. At one point, the damage control goes to the mosque once again. They try to find Kamala and Karan and I'm sorry, Kamran and Bruno, right? And then also they go to the school, and all these people help Kamala and her friends, right? And like I think they really wanted to kind of play up the supporting cast and make it like everyone is funny, and it works for the most part, but it does feel a little forced,
Yeah, I can see that. Yes, I mean that's what Marvel does, though. They try to inject that little quips and humor everywhere. I mean, I didn't really notice it that much in this episode, I guess. But now that you're pointing out, I can kind of see it. But I think I might just be blinded by the overdose of jokes that was in Thor. Is that we'll get to that later.
Yeah. Well, I think where it kind of stands out the most is when they get to the school and that one girl is there. I forget the girl's name. That was like the TikTok girl.
Zoe.
Zoe. Okay, thank you. Like she just is randomly at the school and she's like, "Oh, I do photo shoots or Instagram shoots at the school." It's like, okay, sure. And then Kamala's brother shows up and he's like, "Oh, I used to go to the school. I know how to get in here." And so he snuck into the building. And this is all kind of nitpicky fanboy shit, but it's just the kind of thing where there's other ways you could set this up. You could set it up that like the brother goes with Kamal from their house and they go into the building together. It just felt kind of forced to have them all be at the building at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I get that they needed the extra bodies to help. I mean, because literally there's two powered individuals here. One of them is kind of injured and just new to his powers, and
right.
and they're being essentially assaulted by a military squad.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I mean, they at least needed some bodies here to get in the way, and I like the idea of they're all wearing the same hoodie and the hat so they can kind of conceal they are, although it's kind of a little dangerous, I suppose.
It's very Three Amigos, right? With the ending.
Yes. Yeah.
Spoilers for Three Amigos came out like 37 years ago. But I was going to say, though, that in the beginning of the episode, they do the disclaimer saying that there might be upsetting moments in the episode or upsetting imagery. Yeah. And what I assumed that was about was the idea of like a force with guns breaking into a school. I thought that was probably upsetting, especially based on what happened to be released today too, with the shooting in Uvalde.
Oh, I didn't hear anything about that today.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about this kind of hokey teen show. We'll get into real world shit for a second, but basically they revealed like some of the footage of the cops and stuff that were basically waiting around for like, I don't know, over an hour while these kids were getting killed. And there's like footage of one cop like at a hand sanitizer station, like getting hand sanitizer on his hand. And there's footage of like another cop checking his text messages. And they're there while the shooter's in the classroom with the kids.
Yeah.
Just disgusting. And to top it all off, the cop who's checking his cell phone while they're in the school, he's got the Punisher logo as his backdrop on his phone.
Yeah, I would definitely think that might have something to do with that.
I mean, it's just like our world. And I'll get off my soapbox in a second, but it's just so fucking disgusting that like Stranger Things, the season 4 starts off. There's disturbing imagery in this episode. You might be upset, and it's because there's a bunch of kids that get killed. That's because the Uvalde thing happened like days before, and now they're releasing this footage, and they're like, "Oh, this might upset you," and it's, I don't know. It's just what a world we live in, and but I think that's the reason why they said it was upsetting was because of that scene.
Yeah, I agree there. Anytime you have guns in a school, whether they're sonic guns or real guns, it's upsetting now. It really is.
Yeah. So just to kind of get away from the real world stuff and back onto the fun, like, did you like the way that Damage Control acted, and like, were they a formidable force, or did you kind of like just think, okay, can we just get through this and get to the end?
I think I said earlier on I would have been disappointed if Damage Control was the ultimate villain here, and they kind of were. I guess I would have liked to have seen some slightly more, a little bit more of the motivation for is it Agent Deaver? When
Yeah.
he kind of went rogue there.
Front row, yeah.
It's just like, okay, yeah, we just don't like kids with powers, so we're gonna go send a whole bunch of soldiers in a building in a school.
Yeah.
I wish there was a little more to that, and I think again that I think overall that this show would have been served better had they just kept it in Jersey City. Maybe if they wanted to do the globe trotting stuff, you do that in season 2.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree with that point. But what I was gonna say is that with a lot of these Disney Plus shows and just streaming shows in general, if you have a villain, you'll introduce them early on, and then you might have like a flashback sequence a few episodes in that shows their motivation. And you could have explained why this woman went rogue, where her like commanding officer is saying, pull back, we don't want this horrible media coverage, and she just goes against his orders. Like, you could give a reason for that, and there's nothing like that. And I know, like, I shared a tweet with you and our other friends that make videos too, that like with these streaming shows, like nothing happens for so many episodes, and then in that last episode, all crazy shit happens. And it's kind of funny because I've seen a few things this week that talk about the idea of streaming, where it's just like they want you using the platform. They don't necessarily care which thing you're watching, just as long as you're using the platform. And I think that that's to the detriment of these services, because it almost kind of feels like everything is filler. And then once you get to the end, it's like super rushed. Like, doesn't that kind of feel like what happened here too?
Yeah, I mean, how many times did I say that rush today? The costume, the mom changing her tune. Yes, it felt rushed, and I think this really would have benefited from staying local the whole time.
Yeah. Well, we're sounding like broken records here. We might as well get to the juicy part. So at the very end, Kamran is safe. He's able to escape, and Ms. Marvel is like the local hero for Jersey City. A couple of days later, Bruno comes up to her and he says, I've tested your DNA, and it looks like there might be some sort of mutant gene in your DNA. Exactly. Cue 90s X-Men theme. So my first question to you is, do you think they're going to try to retroactively make it that Inhumans and mutants are like the same kind of thing in the MCU?
I feel like the second I saw this, I'm like, oh my god, this is what not Eternals vs. X-Men is going to be in the comics probably.
Right, right. No kidding though. I do think that is going to be some kind of like. This is what I think. Okay, here's my 2 cents, and I want to hear your 2 cents. Okay,
sure.
Because your 2 cents is more valuable than mine. But like, I personally think that Marvel Comics and the MCU look at the Inhumans and they're like, okay, we did the show poorly, and then in the comics we basically wiped out the X-Men and shoved Inhumans in everyone's face, but we still have a property there that we can kind of mine. So let's not abandon them completely. Let's try to figure out how to salvage it. And I personally think that the way they would try to salvage it would be to say that the Inhumans show was like an alternate universe. It's just part of the universe. And like the Inhumans are one thing, but I think they're going to try to make it like the Inhumans are just a type of mutant. Like, I don't think they're going to just straight up say Kamala Khan is a mutant. I think they're going to say that she is an Inhuman, and like Inhumans are just a kind of a branch of mutants.
Yes,
that's my 2 cents.
Or vice versa, or something like that. And they all come from the Eternals.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going to happen here eventually. It was a bit of a weird thing, and this is what I was getting at earlier with taking her powers in different directions. There's the Jinn aspect. There's the band aspect tying her to the Kree. There's the mutant / Inhuman angle. It's just like, why
pick a lane?
Yeah, pick a lane. Exactly. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, because there's this one comic, I think it's Earth X, where it's in the future and all kinds of crazy shit has happened between now and the future, but they kind of like streamline everything together where like it's like everything's kind of connected with the Celestials and like the Norse gods, that are from Asgard, and the Kree and the Skrull. Like, they kind of tie everything together in that comic. Do you remember that comic?
Yeah, I read all those. I read Earth X, Paradise X, Universe X.
Yeah. So like in there, they kind of allude to the idea that like deviants and Eternals and like the Kree and the Skrull, they're all kind of like genetically linked. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I read it, but it does sound familiar.
Yeah. And I mean, back in the day, I remember the first time I ever saw the Inhumans. What do you call it? It was in an issue of X Factor that was like fucking amazing. It was like drawn by Wiles Portacio, and it had like the team with like Scott and Jean and Angel and the original X-Men, and they were fighting Apocalypse. It was so fucking good. And that had the Inhumans in it, and I just thought the Inhumans were like other mutants,
Yeah, yeah. At the time, I probably thought they were just another mutant offshoot. Although I think my first exposure to the Inhumans was probably Crystal in the Fantastic Four.
Right. Yeah. Well, so they play the fucking X-Men theme, and it's just for guys like us to be like, oh my god, oh, this is a
Continuity boner.
Yeah, right, exactly, yes. Dude, that's gonna be our first piece of merch. Is gonna be a sex toy called the Continuity Boner, and it's gonna put me $30,000 in debt making it. But I was gonna say though, do you think that because they play that theme, it's like the idea that like the X-Men, like that's signaling that the X-Men are in the MCU somehow?
It's a great question. It's possible. I still have a feeling that that we're going to that I think the overall arc of Phase 4 is set up for Secret Wars, where we have incursions and different realities. I ultimately think this reality does not have mutants or X-Men currently, and that I think that we're going to get at the end of Secret Wars, we're going to get or introduced in Secret Wars, we're going to get a world that has X-Men and mutants, and somehow by the end they're all going to get combined into one. And that's how they're going to
That's so interesting, because it's like Secret Wars is kind of like similar to what do you call it? The Secret Wars by Jonathan Hickman is similar to Crisis on Infinite Earths, where it's like all the realities are being destroyed, and then there's like one remaining reality. Like, that's interesting. And so do you think there's going to be like a reality where the Fantastic Four exists too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think at the end of it, it's going to all come together, and it's going to be, it's going to be where everything happened, but it's going to be different too. So you'll have the other characters around, but you'll still have Tony, you'll still have, H.C. Rogers and all that, because they don't want to erase. I don't think they want to erase everything.
Yeah,
they want to add to it. So it would. I mean, really, I think what it's going to be is just it's going to be like combining the Ultimate Universe with the 616 universe, and it's basically you just take Miles and transplant him over, and everything else is just 616.
Yes. Okay, so here's the $1 million question then. Do you think that the X-Men continuity with like Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen and those X-Men, do you think that is going to be the continuity that smashes into the MCU and merges?
So in that sense, you'd really have the McAvoy and Fassbender stuff be in the past, and then still keep the Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen stuff as a more recent present that would even have happened before the Avengers, technically, because that was around 2000. I think even in continuity was there the early 2000s. Yeah, I suppose so, but I mean that kind of eliminates too many X-Men characters for my tastes. I kind of want. I mean, as much as we've already seen some of these characters so many times, I want to see, I want to see it done like well and right.
I do know. Yes,
there are definitely some great X-Men movies, but I think overall it's just very messy and very hit or miss at times. So I would love for some of the best parts to stick around, but at the same time, I don't want to totally just toss out all the great classic characters, and which I think Marvel will need to lean on as we lose more and more original Avenger actors.
Yeah. Well said. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think that ultimately everyone will be more excited to see, like, oh, here's a new Wolverine. Here's a new Cyclops. We could definitely use a new Cyclops, by the way, too.
Yes.
Like this, a Cyclops, divorced from those X-Men movies. Okay, here's my last question. This one's the juiciest of all. Do you think that this X-Men 1997 cartoon is going to be considered a reality that is connected to the multiverse?
Sure, why not? I mean, why not? With all this weird stuff that's going on with Sony, and like, why not have a cartoon exist?
Yeah.
mean, maybe even Spider-Verse. There's a freaking cartoon pig in there. I say make it all. I mean, especially actually 100% yes. Think about Doctor Strange. Think about that 20-second sequence where they go through all those realities and all that weird shit. Of course, there's an animated universe. Of course, there is.
Okay, so then the animated universe is this now X-Men 1997 universe, and I'm excited, man. I'm so. When is that show coming out?
I have no idea. I don't think they've announced it. I imagine we're going to hear something at San Diego Comic-Con.
Okay. When's that?
Like next week or some shit like that.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's very soon. Yeah.
Oh my god, I'm so fucking out of the loop. This is crazy.
Yeah, I think it's next weekend actually. Yes.
Okay. Well, okay. So then that is like that's pretty much the. Oh, whoa! Holy shit! I almost forgot the fucking post credits part. Too.
Yeah, we gotta talk about that too.
Yeah. Or the mid credits part. So okay, so Kamala is laying in bed after all these events have ended, and her bracelet starts acting up. There's like a little weird spiral, like kind of this weird squiggly line shit, and she gets thrown backwards, but then it's Carol Danvers that comes out of the closet. So yes. I have a couple of theories on that. One is that is not actually Carol Danvers, that is actually Kamala Khan becoming Carol Danvers because of the bracelet.
That did pop in my head.
Yeah.
Based on how she was acting, but then again, she was kind of stunned and looking around and seeing her own image on the wall. So I really think it could go either way. I think that this is just their attempt to tie this a little more closely to Carol. And, the very next thing we see is Miss Marvel will return in the Marvels. So I think this is how they get connected.
Yeah. Well, what the fuck else? I mean, what happened there?
I mean, again, this is the whole origin thing here. Like, I'm pretty sure that her band is like a Kree Nega band, the quantum band that Quasar uses. Like, that's got to be it. And again, it's just a little bit too much going on.
Way too much.
And
so like, let's just break it down real quick. So Kamala Khan is the descendant of a Jinn from the Noor dimension. And because of that, she might potentially be a mutant or an inhuman. We don't know. And that great-grandmother of hers that she's descended from was trying to get back to the Noor dimension using these bands that they found in a temple in Earth. And the bands might belong to a blue skin. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's fucking complicated as hell.
It's too much. And I mean, we'll see what happens. I'm curious to see if there'll be a season 2 of this or not. It seems like it's right for it. Especially with one of the last seasons too, you saw that classic, her sitting on the lamppost scene there, which was great. And that kind of to me implies that we'll see her again on her own again in the future.
Yeah, I'm down. So unless you have any other things you want to say about Ms. Marvel, we can go ahead and rank our MCU shows.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay. Do you want to go first? I feel like I always take over.
Sure.
Okay, what you got?
Bottom to top. Bottom to top. Let's do it.
Bottom to top.
At the bottom, I still have What If. Next, I have Moon Knight, and then I have Miss Marvel.
Okay.
I had a really hard time placing this. I felt this show had a lot of charm. It had that kind of community heart. You know, there were several times where I felt something watching the show, but at the same time, it feels it really feels like a cookie cutter Disney Channel kind of show at times.
Yes, yes, yes,
So,
yes.
and it feels very different. So I really did like it a lot, but it's just a little different. And I would absolutely watch a season two. But I'm for now, I'm only placing it above Moon Knight and What If. After that, I have Falcon Winter Soldier, then Loki, then WandaVision, and Hawkeye at the top.
Oh man,
I know we
our
go through this every time.
I know, so different, so different.
I can't wait to talk about Black Panther again when we rank the movies.
All right, well, let's do this. 100th episode for our podcast. Here we go. Number 7, I have Moon Knight at the very bottom because for Moon Knight, I just kind of didn't like half of the protagonists. You know, I didn't like his wife. I didn't like Steven at all. I kind of liked Mark.
I liked I forgot her name. I liked the wife. I can't remember her name anymore though.
Yeah. She becomes like the Red Scarab or something like that. But I think what I truly liked was maybe Khonshu, played by F. Murray Abraham. I thought that you know, what's his face from fucking Black Phone was
Ethan
decent in it. Yeah. But I don't know. It just felt off. It didn't really feel like Moon Knight. Right after Moon Knight comes Ms. Marvel, I'd hate to say.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing that I'm thinking about, just listening to you talk about the show. It's that, like, there's all these good aspects to this show. However, I just feel like the way that it's all strung together doesn't work or make it compelling. I found myself with Moon Knight and Ms. Marvel wanting to kind of like look at my phone or maybe kind of multitask while I was watching them versus like intently watching them and taking notes. And like I'm sure there's a lot of fanboys that could complain about like her extended family and her classmates and like her love life and stuff like that. I liked all those aspects. It's just I felt like the way that it was all set up, it wasn't compelling. And I feel like the villains, there just wasn't like a presence there at all.
Yeah, you know what? I think they'll. I think the fact I forgot to touch on this before, I guess, but with Damage Control, I think this was a okay enough way to introduce a first season to not have an actual villain. Because think about this: this is a teenage girl just discovering powers, and then she would have a supervillain battle. I think that'll be better served in a season 2 or or after a team up with Carol in a movie. I think maybe next time around we'll see a more direct villain here, and I think it was okay enough to just get that sense of community involved and established here in the first place.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, that's a good point. I still though, just with those two shows, I just feel like in the end, I'm just kind of like losing my interest more with these shows as they keep going on. And there's a shit. I mean, this is kind of keeping the pattern going. But my 5 is Hawkeye. Like, I like Bishop a lot. I actually like Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye.
Oh no, you're cutting out, or I cut out. No, don't do this. Tell me about why you don't like Hawkeye. All right, we're having some technical difficulties here. We'll be back in hopefully a minute.
Oh boy. Okay, we're actually still live.
It wouldn't be a 100th episode without technical difficulties.
I was just thinking how we haven't had one of those in a while now.
Yeah.
I was making such a good fucking point too. My point was that I don't know. These shows don't feel as tight. They feel like they're sort of like stretched out and thin, and like you could like just tighten them up and they would be stronger. Like get to the point. Don't add as much stuff. And so like that's kind of how I felt about Hawkeye. I actually felt that Loki was tighter than Hawkeye. That sounds weird, but so Loki is number 4. What If is number 3. Falcon and Winter Soldier number 2, and then WandaVision is number 1. I felt like that was the most cohesive. All of these shows have negative parts, like things I would change. However, I feel like it's kind of gone down in quality since the first one. I don't know. I might be wrong. I don't know.
I still stand by. I really liked Hawkeye a lot. That was the closest to a street level show we've had, I think.
Yeah.
I think there was definitely some things that were excessive in it, and it wasn't perfect. But it's just my favorite one out of everything so far. I think overall, I mean, these Disney shows are okay. They're not amazing. I wouldn't like. I would only tell people to watch them if they want to know everything about the MCU. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend many of them. Maybe with the exception of WandaVision, because it's such an interesting premise. To just say, hey, look, this was really good, and you should watch this, even if you don't know anything.
Yeah.
Just because of the gimmick, and I just appreciated all that.
Yeah, I like that you bring that up because I think to myself, like, I don't even think of these shows as which one would I recommend to somebody, because you're like me. We've said this before that like we're completionists, and it's like we have to see every single movie, we have to watch every single show, because otherwise we feel like we're missing out on something, right? Yeah. And so just as standalone things, I feel like I couldn't recommend any of these, like you said, except for maybe WandaVision, because even like Falcon and Winter Soldier, I thought that one was pretty straightforward story and it had some great characters in it, but that has some flaws in it too. I mean, it's pretty low on your list, right?
It's 4th for me.
Okay, yeah, out of 7. So
yeah,
I mean, we'll see how it goes with She-Hulk. Do you have any idea how many episodes She-Hulk is supposed to have?
I want to say it's a little more. I want to say it's 8 or 9.
Oh, okay. I love how I put you on the spot. I'm like, when does this come out? How many episodes is it? But you're so freaking reliable.
Well, it does come out on the 17th of August. I know that.
Okay. Yeah, so we got a little gap. And just a little spoiler for you guys, we're actually going to be covering The Umbrella Academy Season 3 starting next week, since this show is done and The Boys ended.
Yeah.
But, and boy, man, am I fucking flying through that Umbrella Academy show.
I can't wait to hear if that's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah. So, do you have anything else to say about the MCU shows or Ms. Marvel?
I do not.
Okay. So then I really want to hear what you have to say about Thor: Love and Thunder.
All right. My overall, just general opinion of Thor, non-spoilery, is it tries way too hard with the jokes, especially in the first half. But I do think it kind of pulled itself together a little bit by the end, to a point where I found it enjoyable. I don't think it's bad, but I had a hard time ranking this movie too, honestly, and I still don't know if I want to keep it where I have it right now. I think part of how I ranked it is still tied to how I feel about Thor Ragnarok, and which I felt balanced the comedy much better. And it just I'm torn. I'm torn of. I guess this is a smaller scale story, really. Although we're talking about someone who wants to go to eternity to have a wish to kill all the gods. It still feels like a smaller scale story because ultimately the stakes are they want to rescue the kidnapped children from New Asgard. So it's kind of weird. It's in a weird place here, and I feel like Phase 4 just feels all over the place and doesn't feel that cohesive. I feel like everyone is just kind of going willy-nilly with their own mythologies and their own plot lines, and they're going to hopefully tie it all together somehow later on down the road. But there's so much backstory and back continuity and everything that the more you do that, the more you're going to back yourselves into corners. So I kind of wish that Phase 4 overall was a little tighter.
Yeah.
And that's it. So what do you think?
Yeah. No, you hit the nail on the head. You said it's enjoyable. It's not bad. I don't think it's bad. However, I do feel kind of disappointed by it. Okay, so if I look at the background of this movie, Ragnarok was made by Taika Waititi. He directed it, but it had a different set of writers. It had Eric Pearson, who also wrote Black Widow. He wrote Godzilla vs. Kong. And then you had Craig Kyle and Christopher Yost, and I'm sure you'll recognize those two names.
Yep.
Right. So these are writers, for people that don't know, these are writers that have written many Marvel comics, and they've also worked on, I was just talking about the show Spectacular Spider-Man, the cartoon. They've worked on many different cartoons and stuff. So they are very familiar with adapting Marvel properties into things for the public, especially children. For Love and Thunder, it's written by Taika Waititi and then Jennifer Caton Robinson. And unfortunately, I'm not very familiar with her work. She's made a movie called Someone Great. She made another movie called Unpregnant. And I believe that she is the creator, and she's written a lot of the episodes of a show called Sweet Vicious. Never seen any of those, but I feel like
that's like an Australian, New Zealand movies or shows.
Yeah, very possible, right? And I think that I can't speak for her aspect in this, but what I can say is I think that they probably like kind of let Taika, they let the reins go a little bit and let him do what he wanted to do. And so I think that's why we have like so much of Korg in this movie. And, there's sort of more over the top stuff. And there's just a lot of like just trying to stick jokes in there. Like I think one great example is, and by the way, this is going to be spoilers for Thor Love and Thunder. If you guys haven't seen it, go see it and then come watch our review. But like when there's one part where Thor is talking to these children that are imprisoned by Gore, and they have that mental link because of Heimdall's son. And Thor kind of starts twitching and stuff while he's talking to them. And it's because Valkyrie is tickling his face with her hair, right? And I just felt like this is just for a joke. The joke's not working. Like, this doesn't make any sense that she would be doing this. It's just silly. It's just silliness for the silliness' sake, and I feel like there's a lot of that in this movie.
Yeah, I feel like so I think the initial scene with Thor talking to them and him just not knowing what to say, I thought the comedy in that scene was good because he's like, "Oh yeah, no, you're not that dangerous, but you'll be fine. Don't worry about it," kind of thing. And you can tell he's nervous and doesn't really know how to brace them for what's coming or whatever. Right. I think that worked, but yes, things like that was a little weird. I think one of the weirdest things, and I wish they didn't do it, was there was a scene where Gore talks to those children, and he like tries to make like a joke, and he rips the head off that stinky thing or whatever. I really wish that just wasn't in there. Other than that, I actually thought they did a decent job with Gore for the limited time that they had,
right.
And I was very worried about that coming into this. Because the comic that this mainly pulls from, and the Gore comes from, Thor: God of Thunder, is like top 5 Marvel runs for me, practically. Maybe not top 5, maybe top 10. I really, it's by far and away my favorite Thor story, and it's just I have very fond memories of this storyline. I made my dad read this. I actually like I gave this comic like to people that like, hey, I think you should read this. I know you don't read comics, but I think you should read this. Yeah. I don't do that very often. So
yeah. Wow. That is saying something if you ask your dad to read it. Wow. Okay.
He did. And he liked it.
Yeah, that Aaron Thor run is pretty fucking spectacular. I do feel like Gore is different in this movie than he is in the comic. However, I don't think I've ever seen a Christian Bale movie that I didn't like. Like, I think just having Christian Bale in a movie kind of makes it that I'm going to like it. I actually do like that scene where he comes out and he's like kind of spooking the kids. But I understand like he's trying to do a joke and he like breaks the thing's head, like, or breaks his neck. I get that part's kind of weird, but just the implication of he's saying like, you know, you kids are scared and you think these guys are going to save you. I thought that my daughter was going to be saved.
Yes, that
like,
part.
And,
yes.
Right. And also one thing I think they did really well with gore is there was a lot of sequences where he would be like in shadow and then he would open his eyes and his eyes would be bright gold. And just visually, I just thought that looked fantastic.
Yeah, I actually really like when they first entered that shadow realm, and then just everything got black and white. With the rare exceptions of, you know, Jane's hammer or the lightning bolt, or and Gore's eyes like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that particular sequence kind of reminded me of Sin City, where there'd be like color every so often.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done.
Yes.
A lot of people complain about the special effects in this movie, and one of the things, like one of the tweets that's going around, is when you see Heimdall's son's head kind of floating. Have you seen that?
I the only one I've seen in complaints with the effects were when Thor is like teleporting somewhere towards the end of the movie, like he's just like going like this or something.
Yeah,
I didn't have any issue with any of the effects in this movie at all. I mean, I think I also did see the movie in Dolby or whatever the hell it was, like one of the, like the higher end screens and whatever. So I don't know. It didn't necessarily look bad to me anywhere. I mean, I'm sorry. There was another screenshot I saw. It was of Korg standing there in New Asgard or wherever it's called, and the still shot did look pretty bad because he looked really out of place. But I think that was just like hyper focused, and you know, I don't remember thinking that during that scene in the actual movie.
yeah. Like the thing that's going around on Twitter, it's the image of Heimdall's son, his head just kind of floating as Thor's talking to him, and it's just that shot. And you know, I've seen a couple of tweets where like, this is a $200 million movie, or this is from a $200 million movie, and it doesn't bother me because I think that it's just so ambitious and it's just so like over the top. They're not trying to cut corners with their effects, and I think that like things are going to look hokey if you're just doing the most out there, crazy, colorful, weird shit. You know, there's going to be flaws.
Yeah,
and then there's go ahead.
To your point there, we're talking about a cosmic movie and alien planets and weird races and all this other crap. And I think, you know, more things are going to catch your eye than if, say, in, you know, a Captain America movie or an Iron Man movie, because it's going to be a little more realistic looking and Earth-based. So I think, exactly, you know, you're not used to seeing like spaceships flying around and a guy pulling them, you know, or giant glass monuments of an alien race. Like, you're not used to seeing that kind of stuff. So of course it's going to look weird because you absolutely know it's not real.
Right. Exactly. And to me, you know, our favorite movie, our collective favorite movie is The Transformers, the movie from 1986. And this movie, I feel like, has a lot in common with that movie.
Yeah, just weird alien shit.
Like, yeah, just weird, crazy alien shit, and you're just going all around, and you know, it's all mashed together, and then there's this sort of like metal soundtrack, so it all kind of works like that. The plots are different, but yeah, but I think that Christian Bale as Gore works, and I think that the first scene in the movie is maybe the best scene in the movie, if not one of the best scenes in the movie.
Yeah, I think that was a very nice setup to the character and his motivation. And really, I think this is a perfect example of a type of villain that should be one and done. Like, we should not see Gore ever again. I don't believe we have ever seen Gore again in the comics. So, I think that they captured it pretty well, honestly. And I was really worried because after we saw the first couple shots of the character based on the artwork from the action figure, and then the action figure itself, he looked a little plain, didn't look as alien. I'm okay with that. I think they explained that by, like, you have Christian Bale, use his face. People know his face. Okay, totally on board with that. Right. You know, they mentioned that he's not as bulky as Chris Hemsworth. Who the fuck is? But the logic behind that is that he literally came off another movie where he was a lot thinner. And I think I actually got the trailer for that movie in the beginning of this. It's got it's Christian Bale and Margot Robbie and, oh God, who was the other guy? Is it I don't
And
remember.
Jared Leto. It's the next Batman movie. Oh
Oh my God.
Joaquin Phoenix too. Multiverse of Jokers.
Oh God. I can't remember the name of the movie, but he looks thinner in that movie, and I'm wondering if that was the one he did before this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, who cares if he's not as big? I know in the comics he's bulky, right? But like, just Christian Bale's fucking performance. That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, the whole rest of this movie could be shit. Just him in that role. Boom. Perfect.
Yep.
But that leads us to the other big part of this story, because we're taken from God of Thunder, like you said, but we're also taken from the Mighty Thor storyline.
Yes.
And you and I kind of have this back and forth of, well, where does Jane Foster come from in the comics? And we just kind of reviewed that, like, it's from the original Sin storyline, where the original Nick Fury, who's a white Nick Fury, basically whispers in Thor's ear. He says Gore was right, which basically means that like gods are kind of assholes or whatever, which is a big thing in this movie. And then so Thor drops Mjolnir and he can't access it. And in the movie, in the MCU, it's because Hela destroyed Mjolnir. But in this movie, Natalie Portman comes back and she's able to reassemble Mjolnir, because the implication is that when her and Thor were together, Mjolnir kind of reacted to their love and, like, as a sentient thing, wanted to protect her. That's kind of the way that I took it.
Yeah, and I think this is where we mentioned that where the internet has had a problem with something. And I kind of agree with it to an extent. I think it would have been a lot better served if she was just simply worthy.
Right.
But at the same time, the whole thing that bugs me about it, and I think like Natalie Portman was great. I will say that I really liked Natalie Portman as Thor, and I liked what they did with her. But this was not a story to rush, and I think there's some logic odds here in the sense that, if the hammer is supposed to be protecting her by giving her power, but at the same time it's draining her strength and making the cancer advance, which it does. So, but those two ideas are at odds. How is the hammer protecting her if it's killing her?
I know, yeah.
So I think that was the hammer protecting thing was kind of a misfire, I think.
Yeah,
and it pissed off a lot of people. I think.
Yeah, I could see that, and that I didn't even fucking think of that, actually. So that's a good point. Here's the thing. I think that Natalie Portman's an excellent actress. Like, she's incredible in her first role in The Professional, and then there's all these movies that are not like big budget fantasy movies where she's just incredible, right? Like Closer, and there's that movie where she's like Jackie Onassis Kennedy. Like, she's great in these like serious movies, right? As Padme, I think that, it's just, I think that she like really does play into the character and takes the instruction that she's given. But I think that, like, in certain roles, it just doesn't work. And I think with Jane Foster, they kind of made it to where she's this scientist that's kind of flighty, and, she's not very serious to begin with. When you find out that she has cancer, she's playing as the character, and she's playing it like, oh, it's not a big deal. Like, she's just kind of brushing it off. Mm. However, there's no scene where she's really just sitting there seeing how rough cancer is. Like, I understand she's getting chemo and she's sitting next to somebody else and stuff, but cancer's just fucking miserable and horrible. And I think that if you're going to go all in with it in a movie, you do have to have like at least one or two more scenes just showing how horrible it is for her, Yeah,
I think they do show a scene or two where they do show how the effect of it, but they're so brief. Yeah, and I think that it's not something that you want to accelerate in a single movie in a short time span. In the comics, I think one of the things that was most exciting about the first few issues of Mighty Thor is you didn't know who it was. I mean, the odds were in Jane's favor, but I mean, they had already pre-set up her cancer storyline prior to that in other issues. But there were thoughts that it was this other S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, or it was Sif, or it might have even been
Valkyrie,
and who knows who else. But
Yeah.
you didn't find out for like 3 or 4 issues, I think, or maybe even the whole arc. You
I
didn't
think the
find out
first arc, yeah.
that it was Jane. And I know they couldn't put that back in the bottle, especially when you have an actress, playing something rather than someone just drawing a character. But that her storyline felt rushed, and it needed more time to breathe.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I think her performance is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's like one of those things. Like when you watch like a whole franchise that has multiple sequels, they do this thing where they bring somebody back that maybe hasn't been in a movie for a while in the franchise, and they bring them back to make it a big deal. And that's what this is. This whole movie is like, oh, we got Natalie Portman back. This is big. But it always feels like a little off and a little weird. And Ragnarok is incredible. You'll see in my ranking that's pretty fucking high up there for me.
Yeah, same here.
She's not in it at all. She's just referenced.
Yeah.
So I love Natalie Portman. I just don't really like her in the MCU. There are moments in this movie where I kind of cringed. I went to go see it with my friend Mike, and I just kind of like cringed a little bit, and I felt embarrassed a little bit to be with him. He's not really a comic book guy.
Question. Oh, you're frozen again. Episode 100, the episode of 2 dropouts. All right, some more technical difficulty.
Okay.
Oh, you're back. You're back. Yes.
You're back. Yeah. So they're walking into Omnipotent City or whatever the fuck it's called. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
They're walking into that city, and she's like, I'm trying to think of my catchphrase or what my catchphrase, and it just, that was so rough. That discussion they had there.
It was a little jokey with the inexperience. I think, but I think that's more the movie itself than a fault of hers necessarily.
Totally agree.
We mentioned they overplayed the comedy here, especially in the first half. It's too much. A lot of it didn't land. It felt like they tried to improv a lot, and I bet there's like 1,000 of takes of every shot that they could have made an entirely different movie with different jokes, much like they did with Deadpool.
Yes, that's a good point. And like, so I kind of want to go off on this idea of like them throwing in too many jokes, because that reminds me, they recreate that scene with Hela destroying Mjolnir, and they use those same actors. So you have Matt Damon and Sam Neill, and then they have Chris Hemsworth's brother, and then they have Melissa McCarthy come out as Hela. And I was kind of excited because I liked that so much in Ragnarok, but then when she came out, I was like, oh, all right.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was fitting. I didn't mind that at all. I liked it. I liked the callback to that. I think that was a joke to me that made sense to add. Maybe it wasn't as funny as the first time around, but I'm okay with him adding that in there.
Okay. I felt like the reason why that scene existed was A, just to kind of bring back that joke, but then B, also to just remind people how the hammer got destroyed in the first place.
Yes. Yeah.
So, but I just think that there was a couple of things where they're like, oh, remember this from Ragnarok? And it just, it didn't really click. And, I do think that they have Korg in it too much to begin with. I think that's kind of like Taika Waititi just letting himself go. There was one part where Zeus destroys Korg, and I was like, oh, shit, they killed him. That actually would have been real interesting if that had happened.
Yeah, that would have been interesting too, but, he was the face and he's a rock and he regrew or something like that. I guess. Okay. I mean, I do like Korg. It is weird how they kind of pawned off Korg and Meek with Thor rather than Hulk, because they're from the Planet Hulk storyline, and which had nothing to do with Thor.
Right.
So but I do like Korg as a character. I like that he traveled with Thor, and I think that makes sense to me in the MCU world there. But yes, he is a joke-based character, and again, it's just added to too many jokes in the movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, thinking of Korg, he kind of reminds me of Groot too, because he's essentially like the rock person. You have a piece of him, he can grow back. With the Guardians of the Galaxy,
like in this movie.
What's that?
Goats.
Oh, holy shit!
Yeah, about the Legos. Oh no, I dropped somebody. I dropped Jane. She died. Oh, I can't.
Oh,
here we go.
Man. That's a
I
nice
set, a lot. I didn't get tired of their sounds the whole movie, but yeah.
Well, so with the Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Like, I felt like they were pretty much wasted in this movie too.
Yeah, completely phoned in. 100%. with the lone exception of the one line that Star-Lord says from the trailer.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they were burdened with that based on other filmmakers' decisions. You know, how the Russos decided to end Endgame, and I understand that, and I understand that they absolutely needed to be in this movie because they needed to show what he's been up to and how he got from Fat Thor to Rip Thor again. And I get that, but yeah, complete waste of potential there. And I bet every one of those actors I really need to come and do 8 hours of makeup for this.
Yeah. Poor Dave Bautista.
Do we even have a line?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, I know that McDonald's has like the Happy Meals right now because that's all my son eats is McDonald's. And
my daughter too.
They have the little Happy Meal toys, and they have most of the Guardians, so they have Star-Lord, they have Groot, they have Rocket, they have Mantis, but they don't have Drax.
Oh, poor David. And yeah. That could have easily just been one scene. I think they were in like 2 or 3 scenes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So, because I want to get to our ranking too, but I think that we need to also talk about the post-credit scene too.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about the ending and how I felt the movie came together. Actually.
Right.
And we're kind of late here. So
yeah.
The whole movie, I'm sitting there like, oh God, did they fail this? Like that when I thought that the movie was just the goal was to save the children, I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird and not really high stakes. But by the end, once you see the ending of it, and you realize it's about Thor kind of growing up a little bit and then being a dad. And I think, they show kind of some minute progress of that throughout the movie. And I actually think my favorite scene in this movie was when he empowers those kids to fight that shadow army. I thought that was amazing.
Yes.
That's around that Shadow Realm part. I felt that the movie started to pull together, and I started to like it. And then with the ending, how essentially Gore won. Like he got to eternity first, and that he got his wish. And I really like that Thor kind of accepted that he lost, and his whole thing was, I can't stop you or anything like that. So I'm gonna spend my last couple of moments being with the woman I love, and that kind of changes Gore's view, changes his wish to bring back his daughter, even though he couldn't be with her and all that, rather than killing all the gods. So right. I really appreciated the ending and it turned around. Although I just think they rushed Natalie Portman through the here and Jane's cancer storyline and her death and all that. There's lots of speculation on if she would have been the new Thor in the MCU and Chris Hemsworth would have died or retired here. But it seems like that's not the case.
Yeah. I was actually surprised when she just completely died. I was like, oh shit. I thought that we were going to have a new Avengers lineup and she was going to be on it. And I was kind of dumbfounded. And then I was just double dumbfounded by like this essentially new character that they created by the end of this film. Gore's daughter is brought back to life because of eternity. And she seems to have sort of like eternity-based powers. And she looks like Gore a little bit. And then she's like teaming up with Thor. So I actually really loved that sequence with the kids being empowered by Thor. And it was very much like Ragnarok when he's attacking with the lightning at the very end.
Yep.
And I think that some people might think that was kind of cheesy to have the kids fighting, but I thought it was great.
No, I thought it was
right there. It's this kind of like him becoming a father kind of story, and that's what he is at the very end of this movie. I just was like, this character doesn't even exist in the comics at all. I'm like, who's this? And I figured that maybe they'll try to stick her on the Young Avengers eventually.
Yeah, the Young Avengers, I mean, there is Wiccan, but he's really not a Thor counterpart. He looks like Thor sort of, and he was intended to be that, I think, visually at least initially. But, maybe we need that. I mean, there is precedence. There are daughters of Thor from either alternate realities or even from the God of Thunder storylines there. In the future, he has the 3 daughters. So it's not totally foreign. But, I think the biggest shock here was that, Thor will return.
Yeah. But do they mean the mighty Thor or other Thor?
They said Thor. I mean, to me, they made a big deal about what to call the Mighty Thor. They just said, my name's not Lady Thor, which I think was a nice funny nod there that worked because a lot of people called her that initially. My name's not Lady Thor. It's Mighty Thor or Dr. Jane Foster. So I think they would have, being that was a line in the movie, I think they would have been specific on who they meant there.
Yeah. I don't know. That'd be cool. I mean, I saw this in a review, but they basically said that like Chris Hemsworth like wears the role like an old glove. Like he knows how to be Thor. He's done it for so long now, and he's so good at it. Keep bringing on him into MCU movies. I'm ready.
Yeah, I agree.
But then we didn't really talk about Russell Crowe, but then that kind of brings us.
We have to talk about Russell Crowe a little bit.
Yeah.
What was up with that accent?
That's like he's feeling like a Greek person.
He sounded Italian to me.
Greek and Italian kind of. There's some similarities there.
I had heard that they actually filmed a lot of his scenes with two different accents because Taika wasn't sure which way he wanted to go. So I'm curious to hear what the other accent would have been. Although I've heard that there's zero chance of a director's cut because Taika doesn't believe in that stuff. So.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think Russell Crowe is good. He's kind of good as this like foil, basically. We want the gods to rally together to fight Gore, and he's basically the obstacle in the way. And then I think they straight up killed him after we thought that they killed Gore.
Yeah.
But then he survived, and he went on to recruit his son to go attack Thor.
Yes. And that was exciting. I wasn't expecting it. They did name drop him in the movie, but I mean, Thor versus Hercules is a very long-standing rivalry. They fought in the comics back in the 60s and all that. So it'll be interesting to see how they incorporate that in the future.
Yeah. Do you know that actor, by the way?
I know he's from
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso, but I have not watched Ted Lasso.
Brett Goldstein. I knew that when Zeus was talking to someone, I was like, okay, he's talking to Hercules. Are we going to see like his face and stuff? And then when it was Roy Kent from Ted Lasso, I was like, oh, okay. I was not expecting that at all, but
I think he looked good as the character. I mean, it looks he looked threatening. I don't know what the character's like in the show, but
yeah. If you ever get a chance, I think the first season's definitely worth watching. And yeah, he's a fun guy. I would love to have Hercules in the MCU too, but we had that, and then we had Jane Foster entering into Valhalla, and then we had Idris Elba show up once again as Heimdall. I thought that was pretty great.
That was pretty cool too, and I'm real curious what they'll do with that in the future. As we know from the comics, Jane eventually does stop being Thor and becomes the new Valkyrie, actually. So they had a nice bond, and I think there was some decent chemistry with Natalie Portman and Tessa Thompson. So I wonder if she'll come back again as Valkyrie and still be alive somehow.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing Valkyries do. They ferry the people from battle to Valhalla.
Worthy dead, to Valhalla. Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't know. It seems like Natalie Portman isn't really interested in the MCU. I think she kind of did literally come back for the money.
Yeah, maybe.
But I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on this movie specifically?
No, I guess not.
All right. Well, let's do a real quick ranking and stuff too. I think
do you want to just rank the Phase 4 movies, make it a little easier? Or do you want to go through everything?
I can do that. Yeah.
How about we just rank the Phase 4 movies and just throw it in where we think it should be in the overall, so we don't have to go through the whole 29 movie list.
Yes. I will say though that for my MCU ranking, it has changed a bit. And like I used to say that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was my number one. I have Avengers Infinity War as my number one now. And I think that Endgame has jumped up higher on my list too. Thor Ragnarok, though, just to kind of give people context what I was saying before, is number 3 on my list. So that's how much I like Thor Ragnarok.
That's number 3 on my list as well.
Okay, so then going off the, do you have your?
Yeah, I have it ready. I'm going to go first. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Knock us out.
All right. So from bottom to top, I have at number 7. I have Shang-Chi.
Okay.
At number, wait, is that 7? I'm sorry, that's 6. It's only been 6. Shang-Chi is 6. Black Widow as 5. I have Eternals as 4. I have Thor: Love and Thunder as 3. Doctor Strange is 2, and Spider-Man: No Way Home as 1.
Okay. I'm looking at mine. So my other computer that has all my shit on it is real slow, so I have this all just written on paper over
That's
here.
okay. Low tech is good.
I'm gonna go from my number 1 because I just have my fucking whole ranking right here. So my number 1 would be Spider-Man: No Way Home, just like yours.
Yep.
Then it looks like the next one I have is the opposite of you. I have Shang-Chi as my number 2.
Wow. Okay.
Then I have Multiverse of Madness as my number 3. Thor: Love and Thunder as my number 4. Black Widow as my number 5. And then
Eternals at 6.
Do I have Eternals at 6? That can't be right. I liked Eternals. The fuck? Maybe I don't have Eternals on my list. Okay. So then what I would do is I would put Shang-Chi above Eternals, and then Eternals above Multiverse of Madness, and then Multiverse of Madness above Thor: Love and Thunder.
So Thor is second to last.
Yeah. And where was it on yours?
I have it as third. So I have Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Thor, Eternals, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, from top to bottom.
Okay. So you have yours in the middle. I have it kind of more towards the bottom of Phase 4. On my overall MCU rankings, out of their fucking 28 movies, I have Love and Thunder as my number 16.
I currently, I'm real torn here because it's sitting at number 10 in my overall list. But I'm not 100% sure it deserves to be there. But I may need to resort things out. Because again, I really, I may be putting too much weight into the comics this is based on.
Yeah.
And maybe it should be there. Maybe it shouldn't. I'm not really sure.
You have it as 10 on your MCU list?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I'm not sure. I don't know. I liked how the movie came together at the end. I liked the storyline with the children. I liked the resolution, how gore was resolved. And I put a lot of stock into when a movie makes me feel something. And there were points in this movie where I felt something.
Okay.
I don't think there was anything in Shang-Chi that did that. There was a little bit in Black Widow. There was something in Eternals that did that. Obviously, something in Spider-Man did. I was crying through the whole end of the movie. And, Doctor Strange, of course, I felt him during that too. So I really do have to feel a movie to like it.
Yeah.
And this isn't a quality list. This is like my personal like of it.
Yeah. No. I totally understand. I mean, you know me, I've said this a bunch of times that, like, I rate a movie based on how excited I am to see certain parts of it, right? And for my most favorite movies, it's like every scene is a scene that I'm excited to see, right? Yeah. And so I guess out of my rankings, Spider-Man: No Way Home is the one that has the most scenes like that. And then Thor, I don't know, I guess it just, I'm not as excited to rewatch it as I thought I would be. You know, considering how much
I do want to go see it again. I absolutely do want to go see it again.
Okay. Yeah, honestly, I could go for like a whole rewatch of all the Phase 4 movies because I've seen all the other phases so many times, you know?
Yeah, the only one I've rewatched, actually, the only one I've seen, no, I watched Black Widow twice and I watched Doctor Strange twice.
Okay.
I've seen Spider-Man like 1.5 times.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I saw Spider-Man twice. Never mind.
Yeah.
2.5 times I saw Spider-Man. Okay.
Well, Spider-Man is the only one that has, like, that you can't even watch on Disney Plus, you know?
Well, I bought that as soon as it came out. So.
Good call.
I guess that's on. Is that on Stars? I guess.
Oh, okay.
It's on some other service, I think, because it's Sony, half Sony or whatever.
Cool. Yeah, well, I'd like to go in depth about our rankings, like all of our 28 MCU movies in rankings one time.
29.
29.
29.
Oh, because I didn't have
Yeah.
I didn't have Eternals on there. That's why. Something wrong with me. Okay. Well, anyway, this is a nice extra long episode. And that's because it was our 100th podcast episode. But since there's no Disney Plus show next week or anything like that, Brian and I are covering season 3 of Umbrella Academy. And so we're going to cover the first 3 episodes of that.
Yeah, we're gonna lean heavily on you here because you're speeding through seasons 1 and 2 right now, and it's been a minute since I've watched those. So
not only am I speeding through those, but I'm actually rereading the comics too. So
yeah, I'm gonna try and reread the comics by next week too. They're pretty quick reads, so I think I can get through them quickly.
Yeah. So I won't tell you anything about the show, but I'm definitely thoroughly enjoying rereading the comics.
Yeah.
But yeah,
glad we talked about this tonight, and looking forward to another 100 episodes.
Nice, man. Yes. Let us know what you guys thought of Thor Ragnarok and what you thought of Ms. Marvel too. We love when you guys leave comments too. And if you guys have not already subscribed to Comic Books Transform, please come join the fun. We'll see you guys